Hello everybody and welcome to today's parent webinar session. Today's session is going to focus on physical activity and the brain. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mr. Kamran Ajmal and I'm the head of physical education here at WSF. So I've been employed by WSF as the head of PE as of September 2020. And part of my job is to try and instill and embed physical activity within the curriculum, but also outside the curriculum, and raise the awareness of exercise amongst our school community. And that's the students, the parents, and the teachers as well. It's a fundamental part of a student's growth, but it's also important that we as parents and as teachers can facilitate that growth, because we ultimately want our students to progress and learn in the best possible conditions. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of context as to the webinar and the intent and what I want you to know by the end of it. So I'm going to focus a little bit on why exercise is important. So a very general sort of overview of that to begin with. I'm then going to go into a little bit more of a scientific explanation as to how it impacts the brain, because I think that's a really important part for us to understand. Okay, we overlook the brain sometimes and the important role it plays within learning. And then towards the end of the presentation, I'd like to talk about what we as a school are doing in order to facilitate that whole process of encouraging our students to exercise and to develop their physical attributes in physical health, but also their mental attributes in mental health, so i.e. the brain itself. So we all know generally that exercise has a very positive impact on our health. It clearly and directly impacts our mood and focus, and there's lots of research out there that gives us that evidence. It also allows us to improve our short-term and long-term memories. Now, if we just directly relate that to our students, that's absolutely essential that we encourage exercise, because if we want our students to learn, part of learning is to memorize, and part of that whole process of memorizing is being able to then regurgitate that in an exam situation, which then ultimately determines your results at whatever level you're taking your exam. So having a good short-term and long-term memory is a real fundamental part of learning itself. So I'm going to focus and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about short-term and long-term memory later on when I come to the brain itself. But the final thing that I want to talk about, which encapsulates physical education for me, is that whilst we're improving our mood, our focus, our short-term and long-term memory, our ability to recall information, we're also improving our general health, which means that we're probably going to live longer, according to all the statistics, and we're going to live healthier, without disease, without infection, and without any physical problems. So we're going to reduce the risk of those things anyway. So we improve the quality of our life. Okay, and quality of life and exercise go hand in hand, but a healthy lifestyle, which is a little bit different to exercise, also comes into that. So today's focus is going to be physical activity in the brain, but actually we probably need another 2 or 3 webinars focusing on how we can encourage a healthy lifestyle. And hopefully after this webinar, if there is sufficient interest, I'd be more than happy to produce another one that focuses on the things that we can do as parents, teachers and students to improve our lifestyle. So, in a nutshell, I've very briefly discussed the fact that exercise can help improve brain functionality, memory, which links to learning very nicely, mood, which is important for character development and personality, our attention, which again is crucial when it comes to learning, and our energy levels, which will determine how hard we work in a given situation. I've listed 5 things there that I think are crucial to any student in any school in the world in order to improve their ability to learn information and ultimately get good results and outcomes later on in life. We have to start early and build those blocks. Hopefully they become embedded, and when they become embedded, we can see the outcomes and result later on in life. So, like I said at the start of the webinar, I want to talk about the impact exercise has on the brain. Okay, now most of the information I'm going to talk to you about today comes from a very famous neuroscientist or neurological scientist that later went on to pursue her career, still in neuroscience, but neuroscience related to exercise. And her name's Wendy Suzuki, if anybody wants to check her out. She's got a fantastic YouTube channel, and she has also spoken on TED Talk brilliantly about the effects of exercise on the brain specifically. And she mentioned that exercise has a profound impact on 2 specific areas of the brain. Okay, 2 specific areas. Now, in the image that you can see there, I've highlighted that first part of the brain that it impacts, and it's called the prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex, when exercising, literally lights up like a light bulb when somebody starts to perform exercise. So neuroscientists, what they do is they attach neurons or sort of electrical conductors to your head and to your body. And what they're able to do when they're connected is they're able to assess how much electrical activity is taking place in the brain and exactly where that activity is taking place. So when they've performed these tests, there's 2 specific areas that light up. The first one is the prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex specifically is responsible for 2 things that we need to try and develop in our students in order to provide a healthy lifestyle. The first one being focus. And I can tell you this because I've been teaching for almost 13 years now, that students that are focused in the classroom perform better. The ones that are focused on the work, they do better, okay? And that's a really important part and an important point to make. And the second part of that, and I think it's one that's sometimes underlooked in education, as teachers, we are very much responsible for influencing our students' personalities and their characters. And we've certainly got a role to play when it comes to embedding good character and in reinforcing good personality characteristics within our students. Now, if I'm saying to you that exercise has a direct impact on the prefrontal cortex, all right, a positive impact, research has shown that there is a drastic improvement in focus and an absolute massive link to positive character and positive strong personality characteristics when it comes to exercise. Now, the research more interestingly also shows that if young children are exposed to exercise throughout their lifetime, the focus and personality of those particular people are stronger than those who maybe pick up exercise later on in life. Okay, and that's something that I want to come back to later on when I start talking about what we want to do as a school when it comes to physical education. So that's the first part of the brain that I wanted to really highlight and focus. The second part of the brain I want to talk about is, I've written there, prefrontal cortex. It's not meant to be that, it's meant to be the hypothalamus. I should change that on the slide. So hypothalamus is a more central part of the brain. Now, again, performing the same tests, scientists have shown that when we start to exercise, this particular part of the brain lights up again, which means there's lots of electrical activity going on inside the brain at the point of exercise and then after exercise as well. Now, the hypothalamus focuses on the 3 aspects that I've got on the slide there. It helps you remember facts. It helps you remember important events that take place, maybe a birthday, maybe the birth of your child, maybe it was your graduation day. So events, big events that happen, on a one-off in your life, but somehow your brain manages to retain that information. And the last part, which I said earlier, is critical for me and you as parents and students to understand, is the memory aspect. We have now tons and tons of research that show us that exercise improves both short-term memory and long-term memory. And both these types of memories are needed again if our students are going to be successful at school, because school assessments are based on exams. Now, an exam is basically recalling short-term and long-term information. And if our students can improve the ability to retain that information, ultimately, they're going to perform better in their exams. We're going to have more intelligent students as a result of exercise. Now, I've just finished off reading a book, and I'll mention this book to you at the end of the presentation, called Spark, which purely focuses on research to do with exercise in the brain. And in that book, there's a huge component about how a school in America have devised their physical education program to focus on not learning the skills in PE, but all about raising the heart rate and just allowing students to become fit and healthy and just letting them exercise during their PE lessons. The results for that particular school are the highest in the district, all right? And they weren't always the highest prior to the physical education program being changed. So we know that if we encourage PE, physical activity, exercise, a healthy lifestyle within students, and we can make it a part of the culture, we know that long term, we can have a really positive impact on the outcomes of our students. And it's something that we want to try and do here at WSF. And this, I'd like to see as a bit of a starting point, okay? Now, I want to take you back one step before I start to explain to you what it is that we are going to do at WSF to try and promote PE, exercise, and a healthy lifestyle. But before I do that, I want to share with you some statements and comments that students have made to us as PE teachers this academic year. All right, this is just a handful. I had hundreds. So a grade 3 student, I love doing PE because I like exercise. A grade 11 student, after doing PE, I feel alert and ready to learn. A grade 9 student, PE is my favourite subject. And it was mine when I was at school. It was the reason why I went to school and I enjoyed school so much, because I looked forward to doing the PE lessons. I looked forward to taking part in the extracurricular activities. I used to look forward to playing hockey and cricket after school and competing against other schools. That was the reason why I went. And I'm sure there'll be many students in our school at WSF that would engage with that same concept or same ideology that I had. And it says there, I like the challenge of exercising and learning new exercises. Grade 6 student, I like PE because I do not have to be on my laptop. Grade 2, and that specific point there I've saved to last, because we are currently in a situation, as you are, I'm sure you're all aware, where we, some students are hybrid, some students are in the classroom, some students are at home, but laptops and devices have become a fundamental part of learning and education. And our students are sat in front of these devices for a very long time. So time away from these devices, in my opinion, is a really positive thing. And physical activity and exercise and PE lessons will allow our students to come away from these laptops and devices, for 40 minutes or, an hour and 20 minutes at a time, which I feel as though is going to be a real positive for our students on the whole. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to talk to you about an initiative that we've started called Activate. Some of you may have seen some promotional things that we've released earlier on in the year. I'm sure if you've spoken to your children about exercise, and they've probably mentioned Activate to you at some point. Now, every single student in primary school, every day, is exposed to 8 minutes of exercise in the morning. Now, if they're not exposed to it in the morning because they've got other commitments and other subjects, they will be exposed to this. They will be exposed to this at some part during the day, because the research around this basically suggests that if we do 8 minutes of medium to high intensity physical activity per day, the level of concentration in our students will rise drastically. And I've mentioned some of this earlier. Their ability to remember information rises again a significant amount. The behaviour of our students will significantly improve if they're exposed to exercise, or 8 minutes of exercise that is medium to high intensity every single day. So one of the things that we've been able to implement this year, even with COVID, is a program that we're calling Activate. So every student from KG all the way through to grade 5 will have the opportunity of taking part in 8 minutes worth of exercise every single day with their form tutor at some point during the day, but predominantly in the morning. Now, if we can get it done in the morning, great, because it just sets the students up for the rest of the day. However, it's not always possible, so we're trying to fit it in where we can. I've even known some classes do it more than once because students in that particular class have enjoyed it so much. So maybe even 16 or 24 minutes of Activate sessions are going on a daily basis at WSF in our primary school. We hope to take something similar up to secondary next year, but as you can imagine, with the older students, we've got a slightly different approach to the exercise in secondary school. But when we come to that time, I will obviously talk to you parents about how we intend on releasing that and why we intend to release it the way we do. The second thing I want to talk to you about, and this is something very exciting for me, because this has, I feel, long-term implications, and it also allows us to really hone in on information and data that will prove to us whether our students are actually improving their health and their lifestyle. It's a new app called My Move. There's a couple of schools in Dubai that are currently using this application and have spoken of it extremely highly, and the level of physical activity has drastically gone up in those schools in a really positive way. Now, it's not been around long enough for us to see what impact it's going to have on results, but teachers, parents and the students themselves have spoken extremely positively about the impact that it's had. Just to give you an overview, it's a mobile application that monitors and tracks levels of physical activity. So you're able to input, just like you are, able to input an exercise program. If you're keen on exercise, you can input your running or your cycling or your gym workouts. It works exactly the same as that, so very similar. It can be tracked by teachers, parents and students alike, and that's a really important part, because as a teacher, I can then see what your children are doing maybe at home or on the weekend, and what physical activity they've taken part in, how long for, and also how hard they've worked in that session, because it also has the ability to track heart rate as well. I can set goals and targets for students. So if I feel as though a student is a little bit sedentary and needs to exercise a little bit more, I can set that student, or I can set you parents that target to try and encourage your child to get up and exercise that little bit more. We can set programs for students. Like I said, we can track heart rate. We can advise on food diaries, so that links into the healthy lifestyle. And we can also talk to you about fitness advice, and there's fitness advice available on that app as well. But there is an option there to contact the PE teacher as well if you're a parent, so you can have a direct conversation with me via the application if you have any questions or any concerns. I've got a short video to play for you that probably describes that better than I have. So let's watch the video, and then what we'll do is we'll continue with the rest of the session once we've seen the video. So if you just bear with me. Okay, great. So it's just less than 2 minutes. Make sure we get the sound on. Okay, here we go.
Physical activity in all its forms can help young people to flourish, but it's difficult to know how active each child is, if they're making progress, and most importantly, whether they're enjoying it. My Move is a groundbreaking activity monitoring app for schools that allows teachers, parents, and coaches to support young people in making physical activity a regular part of their lives. It draws upon years of research into what makes children stay active. Mia's school use My Move. Every day she uses the app to log her physical activity, including PE lessons, Sunday morning football, street dance, and skateboarding. For each activity, she records the duration, setting, and how it made her feel. Over time, this builds a picture of Mia's activity profile. Her PE teacher, Mr. Thomas, can monitor Mia's data, as well as the activity levels of other students in the school. This allows him to review the impact of the school's practice and provide targeted support where needed. Mr. Thomas can then use the data to support students and have conversations with the young people, parents, and other teachers. Being part of the My Move community gives you access to regular activity summaries, research articles, online courses, and opportunities to connect with other schools. Around the world, there is growing concern that young people are becoming increasingly inactive. My Move gives us the data that will help change that and encourage all young people to develop a physical activity habit that will last them a lifetime. Get your school moving. Visit mymoveapp.com.
Okay, great. So I'll just bring that back to our presentation again. Now, hopefully that video there has given you some context as to what My Move is all about. Now, the application itself is going to take a while to properly embed within our curriculum. Sorry, bear with me one moment. My apologies. Let's get back to this. Okay, so like I was saying, the My Move app is going to be a wonderful opportunity for us as staff, you as parents and teachers, to really move physical activity into the modern age and really make the most of the technology that we've got available to us to help improve our students' health and well-being. It's not something that's going to come into practice as of September. I would imagine we're looking at maybe January 2022 or possibly even September 2022. But it's something that I want to discuss with parents because this is something that we're thinking about doing now. It'll take a while to set up, but once it's set up and we've got it going, this is going to be a fantastic application that we can use, like I said, to really hone in and improve on our students' well-being and health. So it's something that I want you to have in the back of your minds. Now, what's more important in the absolute immediate, really looking towards September this year, is to implement a new physical education curriculum. And the one thing that I want to make sure that our parents, our students and staff understand is our mission statement. And our mission statement is really, really, really simple, but it's to the point, and I want to focus on getting our students active in their PE lessons. So the first point I made there, enhancing each student to acquire and require physical literacy with particular reference to the main characteristics within each window of opportunity. We have to allow our students to experience new activities, new skills, and we have to make sure that they are prepared to access those activities and skills by making sure we develop their fundamental skills, jumping, running, walking, throwing, catching. We have to make sure that lower down in our primary school and KG schools, that our students have practiced, rehearsed, and got to a very good standard before we start to introduce more difficult, more challenging sports and exercises for them to access. If they're good at doing the fundamentals, they will probably enjoy PE more because they'll have better access to the activities that we want to introduce later on in the curriculum. The second part is key, and I mentioned lifelong earlier on in the webinar, engaging all our students in lifelong participation in physical activity. There's a few ways that I'm going to talk to you that we intend on doing that. And like I said, the extracurricular aspect of physical education is going to be very much key to that lifelong participation. And then finally, enabling our students to realise how their performance can be improved. I want our students to be challenged. I want them to try and get better at what they do, but I want it to come from them. I want them to know what it is that they need to do. So self-learning students, okay, students that can improve or know how to improve their own ability when it comes to physical education, exercise, or developing a skill in a particular sport. So when we're starting off in terms of the younger grades, like I said earlier, we're going to try and focus on the experience that the students are getting, and we're going to give them the basic tools of learning. So we're going to work on those fundamental skills. We're going to work on basic movements, but we're going to do it in a fun, interactive, game experiencing way. Now, I know COVID is currently restricting us from doing that, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't plan for, you know, this curriculum as and when things start to improve and students are allowed back out into the playing areas for physical education. Post grade 1 to 3, moving on to grades 4 and grades 5 and 6, we want to then start to focus on the technique aspect a little bit more and certain movement skills. So how do we perform a long jump, for example, and what is it that we need to do with our bodies to make sure we can thrust our bodies in a forwards direction? Okay, things like how do I hold a tennis racket and what position do I need to be in order to hit the ball back over the net in the best possible way. So as they start to get older and work through the curriculum, we start to become a little bit more specific as to what it is that they need to do. Now, the secondary curriculum can then start to look at focusing not only the skill set that we've started to develop in primary, but we can also start to focus on those skills that our students are going to need when they eventually do leave school and go into the big wide world. Okay, skills that can be used anywhere and everywhere that our students go. Skills like teamwork, skills like cooperation and communication. Okay, and they're going to learn hopefully how these concepts and skills can be applied to PE activities, but not only PE activities, but also sports themselves. All right. Some of the best leaders in the world that we have right now come from sporting backgrounds. Okay, they were given the responsibilities in their sports teams to be the leader, the captain, the manager, and having been given those experiences when they were younger, they were able to develop really good leadership characteristics and skills that then have led them on to becoming, you know, translating those skills or using those skills in their workplace later on in life. So our secondary curriculum will still have that fun expectation, making sure our students engage and enjoy what they're doing, but it will also focus on those specific skills that we will ultimately need when our students leave school. Now, in order to tie everything together and encourage our students to take part and develop those leadership skills, those communication skills, but also develop their skill set within a particular sport, and not only sport, wider than that. Okay, we're looking at things like music, we're looking at things like drama as well. So all these things come into the umbrella of extracurricular. We want to develop a program by which every night after school our students have the opportunity of taking part in some type of extracurricular developmental activity. Now, we have a range of activities and sports that we'd like to offer our students next September, COVID permitting and MOE permitting. We want to hold these activities on regularly. All right, Tuesday nights are going to be the nights for our extracurricular activities, but we also want to try and utilise other days in the week as well. And part of that will require our parents at WSF to be a little bit flexible with the students that attend so that our students can get to these sessions. It will require parents to come and pick them up after. I will be doing another webinar session later on, maybe at the start of September, to talk to you in more detail about how that process could work. But ultimately, what we need to try and do is we need to try and encourage our students to attend these sessions, because these are the sessions that are really going to develop their characters, their personalities, their leadership skills, their ability to work together, teamwork, cooperate, etc. Again, I'm using myself as an example. When I was at school, I know that extracurricular played a fundamental part in developing my skill set and my character, and I know the importance of that. So I want to try and relay that to our students as well. And to finish off, I want to leave you with a quote that I again took from a journal that I recently read on sport, health, fitness, exercise and the brain. And within that journal, the gentleman that was did the research behind this made an interesting comment and a statement, which has stuck with me really, and I've gone back and dug it out, and I've left it on the slide for you there, because I think it encapsulates pretty much everything that I've tried to speak to you about today. In our department, being physical education, we create the brain cells. It's then up to the other teachers to fill them. Now, for me, PE isn't only about having fun and developing skills, teaching students how to communicate and work as a team, but it's also going back to those slides that I discussed with you about the brain. It's developing the prefrontal cortex and the hypothalamus, because all the research at the moment suggests that exercise has a direct impact on those two areas of the brain, and we know that those two areas of the brain are pretty much the key to students learning new information, not only students but adults as well. So if we can hone in and develop those two parts of the brain, whilst also focusing on other areas of our physical anatomy by encouraging a healthy lifestyle, I know for a fact that in years to come, once the curriculum has been embedded, once the healthy lifestyle initiatives have been embedded, once extracurricular has been embedded, with your support, parents at home, and with our students, hopefully our students' enthusiasm, as I've already shown. I had hundreds and hundreds of comments from students that clearly shown us that they love this subject. So if we collectively can come together, I know that we can have a real positive impact moving forwards. That concludes my presentation for today. I'd like to thank you for listening, if you were able to listen for the duration. If you have any questions for me, please feel to get in touch with me directly via email, via the school website, or feel free to contact me via telephone. If you ring the reception team, they can pass you on to me. I'd be more than happy to help. But thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the webinar, and I hope to see you all very soon. Take care, everybody, and thank you. Bye-bye.